LakelandCarKeys.com. I'm currently working on a 2020 Jeep Compass. Alright, so this Compass is a little bit different than the regular Jeeps, where this is actually built on a Fiat car platform, so some of the things are a little bit different than the regular Jeeps, especially as we would plug in, the way we would plug in with a Jeep. I'd use a bypass cable in the star connector, whereas this one doesn't have that star connector, so it has some little wires that I would have to probe into to program. But what I'm going to try to do, I'm going to try to use what we have called AutoAuth, where it would go in online and essentially give me authorization to go in and program keys. So I'm going to try this with my Autel IM508. I have set up one AutoAuth, and they do have the original key, and I'm going to set them up with an aftermarket key. Alright, so inside the car, I am going to plug my programmer into the DLC connector, and I am just going to show you, I do have the key so I can power on the ignition. So let me go ahead and power on ignition. I'm going to turn on the hazards. That's for when we turn off the ignition, it keeps the body control module awake. But what I'm going to do, is try to go in and see if just plug it in, it will let me auto VIN. Alright, so I know it's kind of glary, it's kind of hard to see, but the options it gave me were Chrysler, Dodge, Fiat, and then that one down there is Jeep. So I'm going to go ahead and select Jeep. Select OK. Alright, so it did pull the VIN number. And I am connected to internet. You're going to need internet for this. It says to ensure normal diagnostics, please ensure that this is properly connected to the network. And we are online. Alright, so it gives me two options. It gives me the option to use North America access from AutoAuth or optional connection. An optional connection would be using a bypass cable. So we're going to go ahead and try to see if we can log in through AutoAuth. Now this is real slow because, like I said, it is actually going online. It's checking my verification, making sure I'm a legitimate locksmith company. I have my insurance, blah, blah, blah. It's just all stuff that we had to sign up through AutoAuth. So it seems like it let me in, so that should be pretty straightforward. I'm going to select Smart Key. It identified it as a 2020 Compass. I said okay. It says turn ignition off, turn hazards on. So the ignition's off, the hazards are on. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And usually a situation like this, what I would do is I would take the working key out of the car, so the car is not detecting that. Let me move back a little bit so you can see a little bit better. And basically it's just trying to establish a connection with the vehicle. So yeah, going online and doing AutoAuth, it does move a lot slower than, had I just hooked on and did the optional connection with the bypass cable. Just the online checks just take a little bit more time. But like I said, this particular vehicle, it's actually down in that kick panel. If you look at my old YouTube videos, there's a video how I showed you how to do it with the bypass cable that has the two prongs on it. Alright, so we're here. I'm going to do hot function from the main menu. And then we're going to do Smart Key Learning Guided. And what Guided will do is it will automatically pull the PIN number. It'll go through a process, an automated process. Well, not automated, but step-by-step process for adding the key into the vehicle. So again, it tells us to turn off the ignition, turn the hazards on. It's going to start pulling the PIN number. And I believe these newer vehicles have either like a 5 or 6 digit PIN number, with all the older ones pre-2018 were just a 4-digit PIN number. So, sometimes we have to get PIN numbers from the dealership. And anytime I do something 2018 and newer, the dealership will give me a 4-digit PIN number. That doesn't work. You have to have that 5-digit PIN number. So that's why, on the 2018 and newer, AutoAuth is very important to have, and all the different options of bypass cables are very important to have. These are things that, not super expensive, but do make our job a little bit more expensive. We have to buy cables, we have to pay yearly for subscriptions and stuff like that. So all that gets added in and factored into pricing. And people who don't have those things might give you a better price and then find out, oh, they can't do it because they don't have the proper equipment or they don't have the proper credentials. You see me, I have what's called NASDAQ, which is the government agency that regulates or oversees a lot of stuff in the automotive industry. And I have access to pull not only key codes but PIN numbers directly from the manufacturer website. So I can go into Jeep's website, into my NASDAQ information, and get this information directly. There is a cost associated with it, but sometimes, as an owner, if you need this information, you can go into the dealership and show your ID, show your registration, and you should be able to get that information from them. Yeah, this thing is super slow. Alright, I'll pause the video and I'll come back when, never mind, it actually goes in. And it told me that this part number, which this is part of the BCM, is not supported. So there you go. That's a failure with AutoAuth. I am going to have to go ahead and find my cable, pull out this kick panel, and hook up with the optional connection to get the PIN number to program this vehicle. Alright, so I went to go shut it off, and it told me to turn the ignition on and off repeatedly to read the PIN number. So it looks like it's going to do it 7 times, and more than likely it's a rolling code. So let's see if it actually does it. Alright, and it told me it failed connection, but it actually pulled that PIN number. So we got our PIN number there. We're going to go ahead OK. Again, this part where it's establishing whatever communication it has to, it's slow. Alright, so it says place the smart key on the central lock or near the shift bar. Make sure ignition is off. So let's go ahead and turn our ignition off. And make sure all wireless devices, laptops, cell phones, other proximity keys are not close to the proximity key being programmed. And of course, everything in here is electronic, but I am going to take the original key and I'll sit it right here so it's out of range. And of course, I got my cell phone, which is emitting internet signal and recording a video at the same time, and that could cause interference. Alright, so right now there's currently 2 keys, and we want to continue to learn the key, and it's probably going to have us press the lock and unlock button a few times. Alright, click OK. I'm sorry for the sun glare. It's, not much I can do about that. But alright, so within 60 seconds, we're gonna press the unlock button once per 15 seconds. So basically, it's a rolling code, and I only pressed the button once, and it looks like it's actually doing something. Alright, so right there, keys learned 3, learning successful. Do we want to learn the next key? We're going to go ahead and hit no. All right, so it said key was learned successfully. I'm going to go ahead and turn off these hazards. All right, so we got unlock, we got lock. All right, I'm going to put my foot on the brake. All right, and that key programmed in. That's awesome. Usually, sometimes you have to fight these keys. You got to click them, and then you got to restart the process. And this literally programmed with one click of the unlock button. That was totally awesome. I got to try AutoAuth more often programming these keys. You know, I usually don't do it because of the time it takes, even though I pay for it. I don't think it programmed in so fast because of the AutoAuth, but you know, that's just one of those things where you get lucky, you take it. All right, so I'm gonna shut that off. We can go ahead and unhook my machine. I'm just gonna go through all the features, make sure everything's good here. So we got lock, unlock. We can hit lock twice. Remote start button twice. I can hear the ignition come on. It started up. All right. Shut it back off. Unlock. I'm not sure if this has automatic lift gate, but yeah, it does. All right. So all the features work. Push to start works. I'm gonna lock this key, put it in my pocket, go up and touch the button, and it unlocks. So proximity works both on the door handle and the push button start. So the last thing we got to do is go back to the vehicle, and we're going to copy the blade. All right, so I'm in the, well, not in the car, but I'm at my van. So this is the original key. I have it in the machine, and it's going to do all its checks, and then it will decode the cuts on it, and I will be able to verify a valid key code. And then once I get that valid key code, I will cut the new blade based off of that key code. Alright, we're getting this new blade cut for them. So we have to do the same cuts on both sides of the blade. And then once this is done, we'll verify that it works in the door. And then once we verify it works in the door, this job's done. So we got our key cut, and I did want to point out that this particular blade is a Fiat blade. It's called SIP22. It's not like just about any other Jeep, Dodge, or Chrysler vehicle. So it, you know, just is a different blade. And but that's why I was talking about as far as, you know, this vehicle being built on that Fiat platform. So we could be able to turn both ways. So we know our cuts are good, and that's a completed job. Thank you for watching. LakelandCarKeys.com. After all was said and done, the customer came out and asked me to make them a second key. So I'm going to go ahead and try to do the second key. So we're at the point where we have 3 keys in, and do we want to learn the key? I'm going to see if this one also adds in as one click. So I'm going to hit yes. And I believe I was supposed to have the ignition off. Or maybe the next step told me to turn the ignition. All right, so it says place the key in the central lock and press unlock once every 15 seconds. So that one did not take the first time like the other one did. And it did it on the second click. Alright, so we're going ahead and it's establishing communication, and we have 4 keys in the system. So that's 4 keys. The other blade is in the machine cutting now, but we already know those cuts were good and everything worked, and both of these keys work. So that's a completed job. You know, I try to you know, always make the habit to give them a price on 1 key versus 2 keys. And, you know, sometimes I forget, and then this is what happens. I have to double back and go and add a second key, but trust me, I don't mind it. So that's a completed job. Thanks for watching. LakelandCarKeys.com.